I just felt like my little secret for me was like, I don't think anyone can match my pace, or stuff in like, because I come into the business world and it's like, I don't think anyone can match my pace, because I was just out killing myself, for hours and hours and hours.
Hey, I'm Chris Lamb. This is the Money Hole podcast where we talk about good people, good money. Please make sure to like, subscribe, download, and leave us a comment. It would help us out a ton. Today, I'm here with my good friend who I haven't seen for a while, Trevor Nelson. Thanks for coming, man.
I'm so happy to be here, man. Thanks
Me
for having
too.
me. Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. We run into each other a little bit, and we know a lot of the same people, but that just seems to be life around here.
Yeah. Well, anytime I see you, man, I'm always so happy to see you.
I always grin ear to ear.
You're one of those guys. I'm not even messing around. That's
likewise
so true.
To you, brother. Yeah. Thanks so much,
and I know that about you. We got a connection, man.
Yeah.
Well, just 100%. For people watching, I don't even know how to describe you. I'm going to tell you what I remember though.
Okay.
I know this about you. You are an ultra marathon runner, and anytime I've ever known you over the years, and you just told me it's been 15 years since we trained together. You've always been super into really hard things in life. Like that you pushed yourself to limits. And I remember a funny story when I first met you back then. You were even going to Chico State. And if you remember this, I hope I'm not getting in trouble here, but you were doing nude. You were sitting in a chair nude, and the college, they were drawing you because hey, you said you're an open book.
No, you're so funny.
Yeah. So
well, what I realized is that I could hold still for a long time.
Okay.
That's basically what it boiled down to. And I was like, hey, man,
well, it's not. That's not what it boils down to. If I put in for that job,
the money was good. I needed money. I was a poor student. I grew up poor. I needed money. And I just like $20 an hour, and I can hold still for like a couple hours and make some money. I thought that was kind of cool. And plus, of course, I realize now in hindsight, college was not built for, I think, can I say guys like you and me?
You say
frankly,
whatever you want, man.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it now. I don't feel like it was a waste of time. It was very explorative, nothing crazy, you know what I mean, or debaucherous. But I was taking, world religion courses and finding out about the world at a time. I mean, I'm dating myself, but this is 1999, 2000. Yeah. You know what I mean? So,
I think it's worse now.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to tolerate it probably now. Yeah. No offense to folks that do, but once again, being an entrepreneur, right? It wasn't built for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No.
It doesn't.
College has its place for a lot of people.
100%. I'm a big believer.
But I was meeting with this young man recently who literally just graduated high school, and he's one of the brightest young men at his age I've ever met. And cool. I won't say his name, but he just graduated high school, and he's been helping me with some business things. And you've met those prodigies, those really young
100%.
people. You're like, oh my gosh, this kid's going to explode. He's so much further beyond his years. And I asked him, I said, are you going to go to college? And he went like this. No.
Yeah.
And I was like, good.
Yeah. Right? You're like, we don't want to stunt your growth.
I think high school was holding him back.
Okay.
He's that smart.
I could totally see that.
This kid is...
You'll see that in athletics sometimes too, right?
Yeah.
You just go right to the pros.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly.
The world's come on, think about how much the world's changed. I mean, exponentially in 20 plus years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Wild. And the opportunities. I mean, you could, I don't know, do you ever call it like what you've done? You're a very prolific investor and very, very savvy business person and a wonderful person. But do you ever think that you invented your own job? Because that's kind of how I feel. Starting my own company, I invented my own job.
Yeah, I
found
do.
my niche.
I feel more like I was drifting in a part in my life. There was a season of my life where I was drifting. Then there was a season where I became really driven.
100%.
And at this stage of my life, I describe it as I feel like I'm being directed.
I love that.
Does that make sense?
You have a lot to give. Too.
Well, yeah, and I just feel, a lot of it's my spirituality. I feel like there's this, I just feel like everything is working together. I heard a guy describe it earlier today. He said, my buddy Josh Barker, I got to say that for him. I don't want to steal his stuff, but he said that at this stage in his life, it feels like he's putting these puzzle pieces down, and he's been putting them down long enough where he's starting to finally see this picture, and it's changing his life as he's doing it.
It's harmonious.
Yeah, it's harmonious. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
We built a really, really cool company, my partner and I, and what I tell folks all the time when they're like, wow, I just really like what you guys do, or oh my gosh, I really love working with this company. I never thought I found my dream job and stuff like that. And I said, well, and my partner, Jason, best friend, I said, well, you're getting our best version. You know what I mean? And I'm proud of that,
Yeah.
It takes a long time. I'm 40 something years old, 43.
Well, hey,
but you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
I didn't expect it in my 20s. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it in my 30s necessarily. I didn't really have anything figured out until mid 30s and, and realizing how much, I guess, life meant to me, right?
Yeah. Well, hey, I would love to hear it again, but I'd love people watching to hear, what is it exactly? I know you got a couple things going on, but if you go walk through, what do you do right now?
So I own HJ Fundraising. We run, so we help nonprofits raise more money. That's what we do, man, and it's
big nonprofits.
Big nonprofits, a lot of very, very large. We're very blessed. I mean, our strength is not only our team, of course, but our clients, right? So we help nonprofits with their event fundraising. But what's interesting, because we talked about the pod and stuff, we've done 116 webinars, weekly webinars.
Yeah.
So super consistent in that regard. But what we spend most of our time doing is helping nonprofits with things that don't really involve what we actually provide, right? If that makes sense. We just coach them.
Consulting.
100%.
Yeah.
We coach them. Yeah. We coach them up. And it almost seems like, for lack of a better explanation, it seems like our products and services and what we truly invoice people for is kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when we decided collectively, once again, my partner and I, and then our entire team, we all bleeds the same sincerity, right? With the folks that we get to help. We just started giving it away. That's what we say. We just give it away, the information. And we're really great arbiters and vessels for the information because we get to work with, 1,000 fundraising events like banquets and galas and online auctions and all these fundraising ventures that these different nonprofits that we get to work with embark upon. So when we see the hits, we want to share them, right? And that's what we do. And it's been amazing.
Yeah.
I can't even put it into words, bro. We
haven't talked for a while, so I don't know exactly like what your belief systems are, but in the Christian world, we have these two mentalities we talk about a lot, which are totally applicable to everybody. It's this abundance mindset
100%
versus the poverty mindset.
100%.
You've heard those.
100%.
So what I hear you describing is the abundance mindset. And what I'd love to know is did you always have that growing up?
I did because it's interesting because I'm wildly competitive, and I know you're in a very competitive space, right?
Yeah.
And
it's a little different, but it's the same.
100%.
At the core, it's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. And there's all these different preconceived notions and foundational thoughts and things like that. But a couple of things. I absolutely believe in the abundance mindset, absolutely through and through. I believe it's a very, very big world. Like I'm convinced of that.
Yeah.
I don't focus on competitors. What I focus on is our clients and our people. I don't want to sound cliche. It's really the truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I focus on on being different, frankly, when it comes to competition or other folks. We play well with others. I just want our clients to win. I am a big, big believer in, I want everyone to experience that. You know what I mean? I want everyone to experience what abundance feels like and joy and happiness, frankly. And that's what I'm on. It feels like the path that I'm on. But yeah, I have always felt that. But I've always been an optimist. Yeah. I'm just optimist. I wake up every day very, very happy. I've been blessed with that. I've
never met you in a weak moment. I'm sure you have them.
I have.
But I've never met you in a moment where you weren't so optimistic and positive.
Yeah, man. I really feel like I was given that gift.
Yeah.
I really feel that way.
It is a gift.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we're trying to, we're doing our very best to share it and so talking like this is part of it, I suppose. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. But.
Yeah. So one of the things we talk about here is we talk about money, and it's part of how that plays into wholeness. Because I think for me and a lot of guys I know, when we think about the word whole, we don't necessarily think about money. It's money gets kind of put aside, or it ends up being, I don't have time for wholeness.
Yep.
Because I'm going after money.
I could see that. I think we all go through that at some point, right? When we're making money. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's sacrifices that have to be made.
100%.
But what we like to talk about here is like people's journey with figuring out what wholeness means to them. Because, you being in the competitive sports world for so many years, from the outside looking in, I would see some of those guys you used to run with. I'd be like, that is a healthy person. But you and I both know that there's always a story behind 100%. The story for anyone in any field.
We're complicated. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So what does that mean for you today? Like when you think of that word wholeness, I don't know if you think about that word a whole lot, but what does that mean to you today?
When I think of that, I think of a number of things. I mean, I think that you definitely know when you're not whole, right? It's palpable.
Yes.
There's a lot of pieces of the pie, right? And I think it's...
What are some signs when you're not whole? Like, what does that look like?
Maybe you're not getting along with your spouse. There's, maybe you have a bad relationship, a poor relationship with money. Maybe you're trying to tear down some societal thoughts that might be tearing you down or bringing you down. Or I don't know. I just feel like, I almost feel like someone's pushing against your chest or like the brakes are on, right? Mm-hmm. But we all want the brakes to be off. We all want to, we all want to run. You know what I mean? We're like racehorses, right? We're built like that, right? But I think identifying that, hey man, I mean, I my life started changing in a really, really good way when I met my wife, and you asked me about God and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't grow up in the church, and I had a really hard dad, and I had a very, very kind, loving mother, and and if I didn't, we wouldn't probably be sitting here right now, right? So what I started doing was when things started changing for me, and I changed my relationship with money and started realizing that I wanted to live, for me, an abundant life. And I met my wife, who made me believe that there's a God, right? And we had a baby, and it made me believe that there's angels. I'm surrounded by angels. That's really how I feel. And I'm a soulful person. I really do feel. But I didn't grow up in the church in that traditional sense. So when that started happening, I started writing things down, and I just now started sharing. This is not like an advertisement or anything like that, but I just started sharing. You asked me what wholeness feels like.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's, I started writing down like these actual rules that I live by. And one of them, the first one was be kind to everyone, especially yourself. And what I equate that to is that you cannot give what you do not have.
Yeah.
So if you're not whole, you can't give to the most important people around you. You can't give to your clients. You can't give to teammates. You can't give to your people that work with you, your partner, whoever, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what that means to me,
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, when I'm out of whack or disconnected, I notice it in my sleep.
100%.
I notice it, like you said, I'm a little more irritable,
for sure,
which creates tension with my spouse.
Yes,
because they're who's close. They're the ones that see us at our worst, and we're around them the most.
Yep,
my kids.
Yep,
and I just feel less inspired.
100%.
Which for me at this point in my life, man, that feels like I'm dying.
I think it's really important for me, the way I equate it is, there's people that surround me that I absolutely adore, and they make me want to run through walls. Mm-hmm. They make me feel, like you said, inspired, right? Like if I can surround myself, I've been exceptionally lucky. This conversation is no different. I've been beyond the moon lucky with people I've come, the people that I know, and we know a lot of the same people, and in business and in athletics and brother, I've been over the moon blessed. But I have noticed that there are people that can be huge detractors, like energy vampires or whatever, right? You want to call them, like you want to put a label on them. And there's people that literally make me feel like I could run through a wall.
Yeah.
For them, for myself, for the collective, purpose, all those things. And I think that's really important to identify that, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, it can feel really bad when you don't feel that way,
Yeah, no, you said something that's so key, and we talk a lot about that here, is mentoring and then running with the right people.
Yep.
And it's hard because it's like, I remember I grew up in AA to some degree, and I remember they would say things like, hang with the winners. Mm-hmm. But then they would say, like, don't judge others.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how I do both those things.
It's tough.
It is hard social. Because, when you grow up with people, like when you start outrunning them and you're trying to drag people up the mountain with you, whatever mountain that's is, tough. Like letting go of relationships because they're not healthy for you, man, that is a tough thing to do.
That's a huge learning.
And so many people don't do it.
No. And it really, there's nothing more sad than a waste of talent. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of room for that in this, and of course, when people, pull you down, that's a real drag. We've all had those stories, right?
Oh, yeah.
Relationships, friendships, business partnerships, whatever, right? But it's amazing how you view it in hindsight and go, oh, wow, that was a no-brainer.
So I'm a part of a couple nonprofits.
Yeah, I know.
And one of them is, they're both incredible.
Okay.
But the one specific one, this is a nonprofit that I think has one of the most meaningful messages for what's happening today.
I'd like to know about it.
And the other part of this nonprofit that's unique is the people that are running it and around it are literally some of the most incredible people I've ever met in their life, who are connected to the greatest world changers I've ever known.
They're connected to the mission.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And yet one of the biggest challenges they have is they have the best ideas, the greatest vision. They have the people, the connections. But man, it was the first time where I realized connections, vision, mission, purpose without resources.
Difficult.
100%. And
I'm having a hard time raising money.
I never even knew there was a need for someone like you. And now I know that so much. In fact, I'm going to try to connect.
I'm not saying it for me, but I'm just saying,
well, yeah,
there's a need for all of those organizations to raise money.
Yeah.
Right?
So I want to shift here and talk about money, because, with what you do, you're addressing that need, but you're also around people who have resources.
100%.
And what are some of the things that you've learned by seeing these people who are generous in like their life and how it affects their life? And, what has that taught you about generosity by being around wealthy people that give money?
Oh, yeah. Countless things. I don't know how long we have, but yeah.
Keep going.
A couple things, man. One is, and I have a habit of not answering questions directly. These nonprofits, they're a 501c3, right? That's just a tax designation. They're still a company.
Right.
They still have to make payroll. They still have to serve the mission, their constituents, whoever they might be, right? Conservation. We're big in the conservation space. I know that you really believe in that big time in your bones, and I think that's amazing because I've seen it in real life. What I've noticed is, in working with nonprofits, a couple of things. I think it actually has something to do with a societal relationship with money, actually, right? Which you could speak to for hours and hours and hours, and you do on a regular basis. And I think a lot of times when you're working at a nonprofit, you're thinking with your own checkbook. I think there's a lot of trepidation, societal, once again, with making a big ask for money. I think that when you have a board, when you have a committee, people that are either there's 0 degrees of separation of wealth or there's 1 degree of separation of wealth, right? We all, there's not very much separating us these days. It's kind of a beautiful time to raise money if you think about it.
Yeah.
But it really is predicated on your outlook, right? And I think realizing there's a massive amount of money in the system, right?
Yeah.
You know this, right?
That's why the Fed can't break this economy.
Brother.
It's resilient.
And yeah, we've been through some of the hardest times, and we've seen nonprofits firsthand raise more money than they ever had before and serve people like doing God's work. You know what I mean? Real amazing. I mean, like we work with nonprofits of all shapes and sizes, Muscular Dystrophy Association, neurodegenerative diseases, an organization that sends children that have been affected by cancer and their siblings to camp, like everything, conservation, small Catholic schools, this and everything. And the ones that hit out of the park are not afraid to ask for money. They're not afraid to be creative. There's an amazing injection of, like the people you were describing with your nonprofit, amazing injection of talent into the nonprofit space. I'm very grateful for that. COVID, for lack of a better explanation, kind of ushered a lot of that in. Super grateful for that because of the work that these organizations are doing. But there's so many resources out there, but sometimes folks don't really like that. Once again, there's a lot of preconceived notions about money, or should I ask? Or, we talk about this day in and day out. It's like, if you get a meeting with someone that has wealth, or a Fortune 1000 company that literally has someone probably on staff that their job is to distribute funds to nonprofits locally or nationally or globally, or you just know someone that has crazy capacity and access, you're in their office for a reason. They know you're going to ask them for money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I just think tearing down the trepidation and fear that people have. I mean, it's like cold calling.
Yeah.
Right? There's so much symmetry between that. And it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult to get on the phone and ask people for money. It's difficult to sit down in someone's office when you've never met them before, but maybe you've only, seen them at an event and shook their hand and maybe shared a telephone call with them. It's very difficult to ask them for $50,000.
Yeah.
But it's that $50,000 that's going to make, affect the change that you're looking to affect in the world and send 50 kids to camp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's real. So getting people to tear down, once again, thinking with their own checkbook. It's like people that have wealth are, like they have wealth. But at the end of the day, they're still people.
And
right?
they didn't always have wealth. And
100%.
And I think the people watching this, a lot of them, I'm trying to picture myself listening to this conversation.
Sure.
And the average person, 25 to 45, watching this.
Okay.
I would probably think to myself, well, that would be cool. I would love to be able to write a check for $50,000 someday.
Yeah.
I think the real thing that would be cool is I would love to be the person that is excited and capable of giving that kind of money one day. You've been hanging around with some rich people, and this is your world right now.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the things you would say to like someone who's a middle-class family who listens to this podcast, who wants to learn how to invest, and, they can't even really, like, writing a $50,000 check is a little too far for them.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what would be some of the things you would share with someone like that?
About giving?
Yeah. About putting themselves in the position where giving's even an option.
Oh, gosh. I mean, you'd probably be a better person to ask that than me.
But I'd love to hear it from you, man.
What we say a lot of times we'll give folks little tidbits. We'll say, I know that you can, and I know that you care, Mm-hmm. So even if it's the $1,000 donor, if you galvanize enough of them, they're just as important as the $10,000 per. We don't say the $50,000 figure very often. We say can write a check for $10,000 and not miss it. How many people on your board know someone that can write a $10,000 check and not miss it? Sure. Is what we say all the time, right? But for folks that are our age or younger or whatnot, what's interesting is the demographic and the willingness to give has changed dramatically over the last couple of years. A lot of younger people giving to a lot of different organizations. There was a time and a trend to give to one organization that you really did care about deep in your soul. Yep. Maybe it was your child's school or your alma mater, right? Or you're an alumni of whatever program or whatever, and you were really, really, down for that cause. Now we're seeing giving spread out, right? And
I have a theory for why, by the way.
Oh, I'd love to hear it. Yeah.
When I started this podcast, to be honest with you, I didn't know exactly what it was or what it was. And I don't think
that's kind of the beauty of it. I like that. It's exciting. I think it's exciting.
But as I've been focusing on what I say OPM, other people's money with my team, with my friends, and I'm starting to realize that people right now are starting to understand, they may not even have the language for it, that our country is on an unsustainable path in so many ways. And I think that people deep down are starting to realize like they need to find a way to make change. And I think what my whole thing is it's got to start with you. And I know that sounds cliche, but specifically with your own money. Yeah. Like if you can't get your money healthy and figure out how to put yourself in a position where you have options. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it does buy options. Then you won't be able to call a guy like you and say, hey, my kid had this issue and he's better now because of your nonprofit. How do I get involved in that? Yeah. Because I really want to be able to sew into what you guys are doing because it helps someone I know.
Absolutely.
And so really that's what this podcast is becoming, is trying to help people get to a place where giving and being a part of a nonprofit is even something they can do.
Absolutely.
Because if you talk to anyone who has money and is happy, whole, you'll realize they have a tremendous amount of purpose in their life. And usually it comes down to, at the end of the day, writing checks.
Totally. I think it's easier to access and to see in real time what these organizations are doing, which I actually think is really, really cool, especially on a community level. You can really go and get out there and see it. I think that's awesome. You can see the work that these organizations are doing. People like to, and the light's on. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can call it whatever, the internet, with the age that we're in right now or what have you.
Chat GPT.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what is also something very interesting, Chris, that we like to say too, or at least that we've noticed. People like to be a part of a winner when it comes to, helping a nonprofit or being a part of a certain charity or a conservation group. People like to be a part of a winning recipe and a winning organization.
Giving is fun.
It is really fun because seeing what happens, right, to children, for instance, we always use, because that's obvious, right? Helping children is amazing. We see it a lot with Habitat and the conservation groups that we work with and whatnot. Seeing that in real time is palpable. It's visceral. It inspires giving. and the light's on. And then you were talking about what's going on with the world and the country. And I think that there's absolutely a battle between light and darkness right now. You can see it everywhere. But I do think that having your platform and talking, just having conversations, I think it galvanizes people, right? And there's more that unites us. Obviously, I'm not trying to get get all what have you pontificating or what have you, but there's more that galvanizes us than not, right?
Yep.
And we have more commonality than we think. I think,
Yeah, I agree, man. So, well, in wrapping up here, I wanted to ask you a question. Your life has changed so much since I first met you, man.
Big, tremendously.
And I would love to hear, like, when we talk about this, it seems like you're pursuing some incredible things. You're on your bike, you're hanging out with incredible people, and you have such a big purpose in your life. What does the future look like for you when you think about who you're becoming and the way your partnership with your marriage, kids, are you retiring, staying in shape? You said you're riding bikes now instead of running every day.
Yeah.
What's your vision?
My vision looks very bright.
Well, that seems very apparent. Some really tactical.
I'm not trying to be,
some tactical things.
Well, I will say I'm actually gonna answer something about the past before I talk about the future. And what I realize now in hindsight is that I was very patient with myself. There's a lot of times where I was doing a lot of stuff that didn't equate into dollars in the bank.
Yeah.
And I had apple juice and peanut butter and jelly in the fridge, and I had a little one. Yeah. And then I got, there's times where I was competing full time as a triathlete, and I got sponsored by a cookie company, and I had no money and I didn't have a lot of food. And I just remember, like, a couple times a month, I'd get these really, really dense caloric cookies shipped to me. Right. And I didn't know, I loved it. And I loved being in shape, and I loved being outside every day. And that really tickled me. And I didn't know how it was going to pay off. And what was interesting, and the reason why I feel like my future is bright, and I don't know what the outcome is. I'm certainly not going to retire. You mentioned retirement. I don't, I'll never stop, doing something.
That was probably the wrong.
No, just and that's a lovely goal to have, by the way, because I want people to retire and travel and enjoy the sunshine and put your, toes in the sand, so to speak. And I enjoy that stuff very, very much. I was patient with myself. I didn't know how those things were going to pay off for me. And what it ended up doing was it made me feel like I could really do anything, frankly, if I could train all day or do Ironman or run a 50-mile race and stuff like that. I just felt like my little secret for me was like, I don't think anyone can match my pace, or, stuff in, like, because I would come into the business world and it's like, I don't think anyone can match my pace, because I was just out killing myself, for hours and hours and hours. And I didn't know how that was going to equate. And it really did. And I'm just, you don't have to have everything figured out by the time you're 30 or 35 or even 40. And I don't even have things figured out right now.
You never
I'm 43, will. Right? And it's just, I'm really, really enjoying the time.
Yeah.
I'm really, really enjoying the people that I get to come into contact with and share these stories with. It's all very, very fascinating to me, the entire journey. I just growing this company has been, it's paramount to me, and I see the work that we're doing. Yeah. And pretty amazing time for us, and I'm very, very enthralled with what the future holds, right? And trying to affect as much change as we possibly can in a positive way. I got a little one at home. You got little ones. Yeah. I mean, that keeps us busy, and I got a lovely wife who just finished her last day of school today, so I get to have her at home for the summer. So she's a teacher, so that's really, really cool.
It's going to be a good summer.
It's going to be really great, man. It's going to be really great. Yeah. So,
Trevor, when I look at you, and in closing, I see you as someone who has it all and is successful. From my definition of success, having it all, the marriage, the family. Your money's whole. It's not all about it, but you also know it's important. You're raising money. You're changing the planet. And I've always seen you that way. And I think one of the things I want to end with is just, I was talking to a guy yesterday on a Zoom call who owns a bunch of companies on TV, works with Tony Robbins, golfing with this guy named Grant Cardone, who some people will know.
Right.
And one of the things he was telling me in some of the marketing he's helping with, he said, the first thing I tell everybody is they need to have put their head down and became the best at something for 10 years with blinders on. He's like, because if you don't do that first, and when I hear your story, like that's what I hear is like, sure, it was different than what I did or what David did or some other people, but you had your blinders on and you became excellent at something that was totally outside of what you're doing now, but you paid your dues. And now you're in this whole new adventure and journey, and the skills that you learned were totally applicable, and the relationships you built are key and paramount. So,
that's your equity.
Yeah. So I appreciate you for coming on, man. Thanks, and making time for me.
Yeah. I'm tickled to be here. Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. Yeah. Really
Please
cool.
make sure to like, subscribe, download, and if you would, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts, ask a question. Thank you for checking out the Money Hole Podcast.